I'd like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, January 2nd, 2019. We're here for the purpose of the regular meeting of the Elmhurst City Council. It is 7:37. I'd ask that you all rise. Oh, almost jumped the gun there. I'm going to invite Field School Cub Scout Pack number 26. They tried to tell me they were from a different town, but they're actually from Elmhurst. I'm going to ask you Cub Scouts to come up here. Remember the angle we discussed? Lead us in the pledge. All rise. Take our cue from these young folk. Are you looking? All right. Mayor Pro Tem, start us out. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Awesome. I also need to report that earlier today we did hold a council meeting with just the Cub Scout Pack 26, and I'm surprised to inform you that they voted down extra bacon and dessert for their families for the week. Wow. Close vote, they lost 2-3. I was surprised. I supported the effort. Thank you. Okay. Alderman Brennan is going to be hopefully dialing in electronically. We're going to give him a try right now. Oh, have we called roll yet? Well, let's call a roll. Let's see
First, don't you? You have to wait.
if he shows up at the end.
Conquest?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
Mulliner?
Here.
Brennan? Sabatino?
Here.
Deuter?
Here.
Dunn?
Here.
Leader? Absent? Palumski? Here. Graham?
Here.
Ludo?
Here.
York?
Here.
Levin?
Here.
Park?
Here.
Leave as an absent.
Brennan, Alderman Brennan,
Yes, I'm here, Mayor.
say aye, or here.
Aye.
13
He
present.
did one or the other.
13 present, 1 absent.
13 present, 1 absent. We have a quorum. On to agenda item 3, presentation, Metro Ambulance Service. Okay, I'm going to ask Mike and Dave Hill to meet me over at the microphone there. I'm going to let Mike Tillman go first, and then I'll follow up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Morley, and thank you, members of the City Council, for providing us with this opportunity. I'll keep it brief. As most of you are aware, the City of Elmhurst contracted with Metro Paramedic Services, the Division of Superior Air-Ground Ambulance Services, which is headquartered right here in Elmhurst, Illinois, to provide the city with a complete solution for emergency medical services. Metro provides the following services to the City of Elmhurst. We provide 2 frontline advanced life support ambulances, 1 reserve advanced life support ambulance in case 2 of the frontline ambulances need to be serviced, 1 advanced life support rapid response vehicle, otherwise known as Rescue 1, 15 paramedics, one of which is our chief paramedic, and ambulance billing services. Metro provides these EMS services to the city using a unique cost reimbursement model. Metro submits claims to third-party payers on behalf of the users of the ambulance services, but using fees established by the city, not Metro. This model eliminates the city's risk and exposure to volatile and fluctuating fees that are associated with reimbursement for ambulance services. Reimbursement for ambulance services widely vary by the third-party payers and are sometimes denied by third-party payers, which always requires an appeal by professionals in the EMS business, so that costs of services can be reimbursed fairly to the provider of services. Metro's agreement with the city requires Metro to contract with an independent auditing firm on an annual basis for the purpose of verifying the amount of money collected and reimbursed to Metro by the patient's third-party payers. In December of 2018, Evenhouse & Company, the independent auditing firm, completed its audit for dates of service September 1st, 2016 through August 31st, 2017. The independent audit confirmed the following information. Metro was reimbursed by third-party payers in the amount of $1,375,960.34 for the dates of service September 1st, 2016 through August 31st, 2017. Pursuant to Metro's agreement with the city, Metro was entitled to retain $1,078,952 for the variable portion of its cost of service, which accounts for 83% of Metro's cost to provide EMS services to the city. The city paid Metro a fixed amount in the amount of $144,588, which represents 11% of Metro's costs. The remaining amount owed to the city owed to Metro by the city is known as the deferred payment, which is $72,294, which accounts for 6% of Metro's costs. The city's deferred payment is usually deducted from any excess revenue that is collected by Metro to make Metro's payment whole. So we did the audit, and after the calculation that I just explained to you, we ended up having a surplus in the amount of $224,714.34. So we're pleased to present Mayor Morley and the City Council a check in the amount of $224,714.34, which is owed to the city for its costs incurred of delivery of EMS services, such as housing our personnel, our ambulances. They send out their fire department and their engines to assist our crews, so that's what the reimbursement check is for. So we thank all of you for the opportunity to continue to serve the city. We're proud partners with the city and can't thank you enough for the opportunity.
I'm going to say a few words, just a few words. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Mike. So it gets a little complicated, and what a lot of people don't know is how unique our relationship is with Superior. Not only are they a great corporate partner and a great corporate neighbor and have their headquarters here in Elmhurst, but most EMS services, certainly in the Chicagoland area, are not delivered by a third party. Most EMS services are a part of the fire department. Elmhurst was set up uniquely 33 years ago? Does that sound about right? 33 years ago. So someone really smart 33 years ago came up with this number, came up with this unique situation where we actually contract out our emergency services. And Mike mentioned it, but they actually sit in our fire stations and work with our firefighters, but they're a private company. And when the contract comes up, we work with Metro, and we develop basically an operating cost budget. And we commit to a certain level of funding for them so that they have funding for operating expenses throughout the year. But then we also have ultimately an agreed upon revenue share at the end of the day, where as long as they hit certain targets, then the revenue starts getting shared. And the amazing thing is that not only basically does this revenue sharing agreement allow for full funding of our EMS services, we added Rescue One, our rapid response vehicle. Well, I think we're in our second year now. It was as a result of Alderman and the Public Affairs and Safety Committee looking at our response times, looking at our population, looking at the needs of Elmhurst and how those needs have changed, and how even though that we're staffed appropriately, because we do help out a lot of our neighbors out with calls outside of Elmhurst, sometimes there's a gap in terms of response time. And not only did we add a rapid response vehicle and ultimately provide greater services to the residents of Elmhurst, we're still getting a refund or revenue check for $240,000. I guarantee you this is unique within the state of Illinois, and we're very fortunate to have this symbiotic relationship with our corporate partners. So let's give them another round of applause.
It's broken.
This is too big of a check for me to get off on the side.
So are you You got Diamond with you. You're good.
Where's Tom? Tom, this will,
Deposit that tomorrow?
I won't sign it until tonight. Okay, 3.2 is iLeap, it's law enforcement accreditation, but due to weather, we're rescheduling that. That's a level of achievement that our police department has attained, and we will have them back at another time for appropriate recognition. On to agenda item 4, receipt of written communications from the public. At this time, is there anybody in the audience who has any written communication they wish to submit? Please raise your hand now if you have any written communication. Seeing none, we'll go on to public forum. This is an opportunity for anybody in the audience to address the council on any item they so choose. We ask that when your name is called, you go up to the microphone to my right, your left, right next to Chief Root there. Out of respect for work that needs to be done this evening, and also out of respect for others who may want to speak, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. I will keep time. If you go over 3 minutes, I will ask you to wrap up your comments. And we ask that you direct all comments to the chair. And when you get to the microphone, since we are recording, we ask that you state your name. Address is optional. Clerk Cyprian, at this time, is there anybody who wishes to address us, has signed up for public forum?
Yes, there is, Mayor.
Fantastic.
First one would be Rex Irby.
Irby?
Rex Irby, 853 Hillside. It's REX, last name IRBY. I'm addressing the board regarding the new water report that's going to be effective per recommendation February 4, 2019. I did a quick review of the report. I agree that we're probably going to have to raise our water rates. I do admit that. The biggest challenge, one of the biggest challenges we've got is reconciling our water loss. So we have a 19.1% IDNR LMO-2 leakage that we don't get water bill for, our unbilled water. And if you take off the amount that the new meters are going to get in reverse of the 19.1, we're probably around a 10 to 11. We may or may not hit the 2019 end of year goal of 10% and could be at risk of some problems. I'll come back to that discrepancy of how much the residential, the commercial, the city, some of the large industrial like the Elmhurst Hospital, Park District, et cetera, take out of that. There's a net amount that is hard to account for. It's almost 600,000 gallons per day in my estimation. That has about a $1.1 million DuPage Water Commission cost, and at full retail, that's $4.5 million worth of water annually. Back to the report, the water items that are in there, so we have water, sewer, and the CERC. In the water, we've got several items that are capital investment, the water mains. Why we want to put that to the water rate, the volumetric water charge, I'm not sure. My recommendation or my thought is that should go to the capital investment recovery charge, the CERC. That's what it's there for. We have other items like the Public Works garage roof. It has allocations in there for the Public Works, so why we don't put a water main in there that's already in there, and new water main costs that we're going to extend our mileage per year, that should go to the CERC, not the water charge, the volumetric charge. Same with the sewer. The lining is recommended to raise the rate. Why not put that to the CERC charge again? So I'm not sure the rationale, but that's what the CERC charge is for, from what I've read in its creation back in 2013. And then the CERC charge itself. So if we put those items in, obviously the CERC charge would go up and the water rates would potentially stay the same, or those items. There are some operating expenses that you guys have identified that would potentially raise the sewer and the water, but I recommend only operating costs go in there, not capital items. And so back to the CERC, like I said, that would go up. And as the current CERC rates are, the residential people are subsidizing the commercial by a huge amount. Elmhurst Hospital probably has a 0.3% CERC charge to their total bill, where the average Elmhurst resident is just under 10% as a total of their charge. Why in the world we're subsidizing, I don't know. But if we were increasing our revenues from the CERC charges from our industrial people, with 6-inch water mains and 6-inch water meters, I think we might be able to recover another $1 million to $2 million to pay for these capital investment recovery items, pay down our debt faster. So thank you very much.
Barbara Lonergan.
Barbara Lonergan, I'm speaking on behalf of Elmhurst Coal Cities Coalition. We appreciate the work the Finance Committee has done to date on electricity aggregation. Elmhurst Coal Cities has been focused on a number of other sustainability-related topics within the city: curbside composting, backyard beekeeping, multi-unit residential recycling, and aggregation was not on our radar. We ask for you to consider the following items in this new contract. Since 2014, we've been advocating for a cleaner energy mix. Any new agreement should have a lower carbon content than what is currently being delivered today. The current ComEd mix is 30% coal, 30% natural gas, 35% nuclear, and 3% wind. A cleaner energy mix, in addition to renewable energy credits or RECs, will have a greater environmental impact than a higher carbon content offset by RECs. Any RECs should be green E-RECs from wind and solar facilities in Illinois in order to support the FEJA Act, the Future Energy Jobs Act. Any communication to residents about aggregation should go beyond explaining the new contract and should include FEJA legislation and the various homeowner options available with rooftop solar and community solar. According to the city's sustainability plan, Focus Area 3, Energy Use Reduction and Alternative Energy, Goal 2 calls for the increased use of cost-saving, renewable, cleaner, and more efficient energy. Strategy 1 states, when cost savings can be realized, use municipal aggregation or other available programs to purchase cleaner and more renewable electricity. Additionally, Strategy 4 calls for the city to raise awareness and provide education about solar energy for the Elmhurst residential, commercial, and industrial communities, including feasibility, financing options, and available rebates and tax credits. Cool Cities would like to see the proposed energy mix in the new contract. If the breakdown does not meet the goals outlined in the Sustainability Action Plan, we encourage you to pull electricity aggregation from tonight's City Council meeting and postpone this item for a future date after a lower carbon content is negotiated. If we are too late with this request, we ask that you consider committing to only a 1-year aggregation contract so the goals of the city's Sustainability Action Plan can be incorporated and met in future contracts. Thank you.
Rob Wisco.
Good evening. My name is Rob Wisco, 297 North Maple, and I stood before you several months ago asking you to consider opening up beekeeping to the residents of Elmhurst. Now that this matter is before you again, I would like to reiterate the benefits that residential beekeeping can provide our community. Bees are, in brief, bees are a great pollinator. It'll help our gardens, help our flowers, everything look a little bit better. Locally produced honey not only tastes great, but it has numerous other health benefits. And it's an educational and fun hobby that's been around for a millennia, hence why it's been incorporated into the college here. But now with colony collapse disorder, all the natural predators, and pesticides all threatening the global bee population, this is also a way that we in our community can work to support this critical piece of our ecosystem. So I'd just like to also take a quick moment to thank the Public Affairs and Safety Committee for their work on this, the various members of the city staff who've worked on it, and the citizens who have come and shown their support on the matter. Thank you.
Is that it? Okay, that's it for a public forum for those who signed in. At this time, is there anybody who did not have an opportunity to sign in on our sign-in sheet but wishes to address the council at this time? If so, please raise your hand. If you do not have an opportunity to sign in on our sign-in sheet but wish to address the council at this time so I can get a count. Seeing none, that concludes public forum for this evening. On to announcements. Any announcements from the dais? Alderman Dunn.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to quickly thank the Elmhurst Yorkfield Food Pantry for putting on a very successful trivia night last Saturday, February 20th. There were over 200 people in attendance, and quite fortunately, they raised over $10,000 at the event. I want to particularly thank Paul Letourneau, Kevin Coasts, who are on the board, along with the other board members, along with the Yorkfield Presbyterian Church, for their dedication to that facility and that event. In 2018, the Elmhurst Yorkfield Food Pantry distributed over 650,000 pounds of food to residents in the region, and from what some of the board members I spoke with on Saturday night, the demand is actually edging up higher of late, and partially a partial contributor to that is our recent partial government shutdown, with some people being temporarily out of work. Thanks for a great night, and obviously they can use that $10,000 that they raised.
Alderman Toledo.
Thank you. I wanted to invite all members of the public and the council to the Immaculate Conception Grade School Student Art Exhibition at Elmhurst's Art Museum. This is going to kind of be part of the Catholic School Week celebration from January 27th to February 3rd. Admission is free, and I will tell you to be on the lookout for 4 of my proud students' art displays. Thank you very much.
Any other announcements? Alderman Bram.
I'm not sure if this is pertinent anymore because of the fact of the government shutdown, but I wanted to, and maybe the city manager may know, in regards to the Fly Quiet public workshops, are those still moving forward per schedule, or do we know if there's any impact to those meetings?
Alderman Dunn, were you at a Fly Quiet meeting today?
Yes,
You
I was
know,
going to
answer
give an
that
update
question?
at the reports section, but particularly in relation to those workshops, they are still on schedule, but there is concern that they might be delayed or pushed back because of the shutdown. So,
Okay.
as of right now, they're on schedule.
If I may just announce the dates really quick. The first being 2 weeks from yesterday, in Elk Grove Village from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Belvedere Events and Banquets, 1170 West Devon, Elk Grove Village. The next being Niles the same week, Tuesday, February 5th, from 2 to 8 as well, at White Eagle Banquets, 6839 North Milwaukee Avenue, obviously in Niles. The next, again the same week, River Grove, Wednesday, February 6th, same time, Hanging Gardens Banquet Rooms, 8301 West Belmont Avenue in River Grove. And the one that I didn't announce last time, same week in Elmhurst, Thursday, February 7th, from 2 to 8 at the Diplomat West. Hopefully, we all know where that's at, but 681 West North Avenue. Thank you.
Okay, any other reports? I'm sorry, announcements? Seeing none, we'll go on to consent agenda at this time. Is there any item any alderman wishes to have removed from the consent agenda, to vote no or provide further comment? Any items? Alderman Levin.
716.
Alderman Bram.
719, 7.20.
7.20. Anyone else? I'll now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda minus items 7.16, 7.19, and 7.2. Motion to approve the remainder. Motion by Alderman Deuter, second by Alderman Kennedy. Clerk Cyprian.
Dunkelist,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Mulliner,
Aye.
Brennan,
Aye.
Sabatino,
Aye.
Deuter,
Aye.
Gahn,
Aye.
Leader, absent, Palumski,
Aye.
Graham,
Aye.
Paludo,
Aye.
York,
Aye.
Levin, Park.
Aye.
13 ayes, 0 nays, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. Consent agenda minus items 7.16, 7.19, and 7.20 approved. to agenda item 7.16. This is a report out of Public Affairs and Safety. Shall I ever read it, or do you want to, is there anything you want to say?
Thank you, Mayor. I am going to ask to pull this back to committee, but I want to explain because there have been a lot of people in the community that have been following this, that have created a lot of buzz about this topic.
No pun intended.
Sorry, we have to do that. There's actually just a couple of technical issues with the report as it stands, so to make sure that it's entirely correct, we're going to pull it back to committee and fully expect to have it brought before the council at its next meeting. And I did want to thank Mr. Wiskow for his help in helping us move this forward with his technical expertise, and I'm sorry we're not going to do what we thought we would do tonight.
Okay, 7.16 pulled back to committee, just to polish it up a little bit, maybe add some further explanation. On to 7.19, this is a report out of DP&Z. I would ask Cyprian to read the recommendation.
Therefore, the Development, Planning, and Zoning Committee recommends that the City Council approve the applicant's request for conditional use permit and variations. The city attorney is hereby directed to prepare the necessary documents for City Council approval. Signed, Noel Toledo, Vice Chair, Mark Mulliner, unsigned, Michael Honquist.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman Honquist, second by Alderman Toledo. Alderman Honquist, your report.
I was not at the meeting that this topic was covered, so I'm going to defer to Alderman Toledo.
Alderman Toledo.
I have pretty straightforward case. I'd like to understand what the concerns are, and I'd be happy to address any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Alderman Bram, you pulled this. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Essentially, for me, I just think that the variation request is too great. There's two variations that's being requested. One's a reduction by 50% from the rear yard setback from 20 feet down to 10 feet. And then the interior side yard setback requirement from 10 feet to 1 foot, which is a 90% reduction. To me, it's just too rich of a reduction. We have other variations on the agenda tonight and previous. It's just almost 100% of a variation being 90%, being the interior side yard, I think goes against what we're trying to do for the North York corridor according to the North York corridor plan. So I cannot support this.
Okay. Any other comments?
I'd be happy to address that briefly for anyone else as well who may have had that question. You know, when you look at the variation from just a numbers perspective, it does look like a big variation, but this, like any variation in any zoning case, you have to look at it case by case. In this particular property, it's the front yard of this property is actually a Diversey Avenue, not York Street. And if you're familiar with the area up there, Diversey is a side road that goes in between this property and the McDonald's on North York. Why that property got that way, it has to do with, you know, zone, and I'm sure if Eileen was up here, she would explain exactly why, but it's been determined that Diversey was the front, and so that puts a unique plight on the property owner. If York was, and most people would, you know, common sense would say that York should be the front yard, then there would be no requirement for a variation on the rear yard at all. The other thing to note is that all of the properties surrounding this area are all commercially zoned. There's no residential zoning, and there were no interested parties at any of the hearings related to this case. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Thank you. Just briefly, I understand that Diversey is the frontage for this property. The concern here is that this property is already, I'll say, there's already a lot on this property to maneuver on this property as it is today to continue to reduce what our current requirements are to a significant nature, to me, I think would increase what I believe to be already safety concerns. If you've ever utilized this gas station, pulling in is difficult, moving around is difficult due to the way this property, I don't want to say due to the way that's situated, it's just, that's the way the development is and that's the layout. So I think that there will be benefit removing the car wash. Don't recall if the addition is more than what the car wash would take up, but just the variation is still too steep, but I do appreciate the explanation from the committee.
Any other comments? Clerk Cyprian.
Conquest,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Mulliner,
Aye.
Brennan,
Aye.
Sabatino,
Aye.
Deuter,
Aye.
Dunn. Leader absent, Palumski,
Aye.
Graham,
No?
Saludo,
Aye.
York,
Aye.
Levin,
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
12 ayes, 1 nay, and 1 absent.
12 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. On to agenda item 20. This is an ordinance. Clerk Cyprian, I ask that you read the ordinance.
An ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of the redevelopment agreement by and between Hollis of Palos LLC, Elmhurst, Illinois, and the City of Elmhurst, DuPage, and Cook Counties, Illinois.
Okay, to put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Honquest, second by Alderman Toledo. This is an ordinance following up a report out of DP&Z. Alderman Honquest, care to provide comment?
I don't have any comment. I'll defer to the alderman that pulled it.
Okay. Alderman Bram, floor is yours.
2 weeks ago, I and others voted against this proposal. It's not about the applicant themselves. I'm fine with the applicant moving into this space. It is in regards to the amount of incentive that's also included in this ordinance, so therefore I will not be supporting it.
Any other comments? Clerk Cyprian?
Conquest,
Aye.
Kennedy,
Aye.
Mulliner, Brennan. Nothing.
Alderman Brennan?
Oh, sorry. Aye.
Sabatino,
Aye.
Deuter,
No.
Dunn,
Aye.
Leader absent, Palumski,
No.
Graham,
No?
Saludo,
Aye.
York,
Aye.
Levin,
No.
Park.
Aye.
9 ayes, 4 nays, 1 absent. I think I got too many. No, that's right. 9 ayes, 4 nays, and 1 absent.
9 ayes, 4 nays, motion carries. Agenda item 7.2 is approved. On to committee reports. 8.1. This is a report out of Finance. Clerk Cyprian, I ask that you read the recommendation.
It is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council direct the City Attorney to prepare an amendment to the Municipal Code of Ordinances changing the water rate and sewer rate and restating the capital investment recovery charges as outlined above, effective for usage billed on or after February 4th, 2019. The FCAAS Committee further recommends that the City Attorney prepare an amendment to the Municipal Code of Ordinances to include both cubic meter rates and 1,000-gallon rates for 2019, as outlined above. Signed, Kevin L. York, Chairman, Mark P. Sabatino, Vice Chairman, Tina Park, and Mike Brennan.
Okay, to put this before council, I ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation, as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Sabatino. Alderman York, your report.
Thank you, Your Honor. So this is a big project for this committee, and it has effects on everybody who's a water user in the city. So we take this very seriously, and everybody who's sitting around the table here is a ratepayer. So we all get to participate in the higher rates. And it's not particularly enjoyable, but it's something that we do. This rate review was just as exhaustive as most of those in the past. We discussed it at least 3 meetings. At the meeting right before the new year, the committee did review the financial information really completely with city staff and asked city staff to go back and kind of sharpen the pencil and look at a couple of things that we didn't think were quite right in as far as the way the rates are broken out, and as far as the Elmhurst water piece, the sewer piece, and the CERC. So they came back and did that, and The report tonight kind of reflects what we're looking at there. A couple things as we were, going through it, I had some inquiries from, particularly from Alderman Deuter and Alderman Toledo, very good questions. One of them was, how do we compare to other communities? And, I think it's a really great question, but the fact of the matter is we have a unique water distribution and sewage treatment distribution system here in the city, and we have to pay attention to what that costs us and so on and so forth. So I think it's a really valid question. Unfortunately, it's not something that we can really compare, and even if Community X was at 40% of what we are, that doesn't really mean that we can really do that much about it. So I think it's a really, really great question. Revenue changes due to the new meters was raised by both the aldermen that I mentioned before. And I think that the finance staff put together kind of a chart showing that it's difficult to track, and we've only been on the new meters for a very short time, but what we're seeing is over 3 years is in 16, we were at one level, 17 went up a little bit, and then 18, or 19, I have my years wrong, went actually down below the lowest year. So they're kind of all over the board, and you have to look at all the different things that are going on environmentally. We also feel like because the new meters provide a lot of additional information, people are able to solve some problems that they have too with the leaks and whatnot. So, and I think as we all know, when the price of gas goes up, we try and drive less. I think that the same principle could probably be applied to water too. So these are all really great questions. I did ask city staff earlier today because I asked them, what were we looking at? Because when we look at this, we look at rates not only for this year, but we try and look out, 10 years into the future now. We only used to look 5. But last year, when we were working on the 18 rates, the 19 projected rate increase was about 5.5% at that point in time. And that was based on a $2.3 million investment in water main replacements, and we're actually, for 2019, budgeting and planning to spend $2.8 million. So our rate increase is actually lower than what we were projecting with a higher level of investment in capital. So I think that's a good thing, and I like to see relationships between what we were expecting and what actually happens kind of be close. That's always a good thing. The report covers quite a few things. I think the other thing that the committee really focused a lot on is the cash, the fund balances. The fund balances, and I did have Tom post a schedule, but the fund balances in the MUF for the water and the sewer have just been struggling for as long as I've been on city council. And it's something that we need to correct, and watching expenses is certainly one way to do it, but it's going to be a combination of revenues and expenses to get this cash balance to where it needs to be. So that was a big player in what we looked at. It's mentioned a couple times during the report. We had a resident tonight, bring up the CIRC, the Capital Investment Recovery Charge. Great point. Historically, the city has funded water main replacement and I think it's cast-in-place piping, the sewer, how they do the sewer, they repair or replace the sewers. Is that what it's called, cast-in-place piping? The sewer relining?
Lip lining?
Yeah, the relining. That's been done in as part of the operating costs and not the capital costs forever. And our committee took a look at it a couple or 3 years ago, and through all the consultants' reports that say what we should be doing, and it's reviewed by Public Works and Buildings committees, we've upped our game because we need to. We think it's a really good solution to a lot of the problems we're having. We think we already know that we're discovering water leaks that we never discovered before, so this is all really good stuff, but we made a decision a couple of years ago not to fund these by debt, but by operating costs. And so we do strictly keep the CERC rate is a recovery method for things that we bond for. So we could, I think it's something that is probably appropriate to look at again in committee going forward is, do we kind of count these things into debt? Because, again, they do provide benefit to users of the systems for up to 50 years or 60 years, whatever, whatever that number is. So the net effect of the report is that that we are going to we are recommending that there's a 5 point I'm looking for the number right now 5.3% increase in the overall rate, and it's broken out by the different categories. But this is what the committee is recommending. We feel to do our fiduciary responsibility, this is where we need to be. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions that anybody may have, but I ask for your support.
Comments or questions? Alderman Mulliner.
I just want to make one comment to make sure that everybody understands. The hospitals, there was a comment made about the hospital, and everybody needs to understand that the hospital pays, especially in the south end, they pay for water, but they do not pay us for sewer. The sewer goes to, I can't think of the name of it right now.
I believe it's Flag Creek.
Flag Creek. That was an agreement when the hospital was put into place, so they're going to have a differential. When you look at the numbers, it's going to look kind of skewed a little bit, but it's probably skewed more than anything because of the fact the sewer rates are going to a different organization than us.
Alderman Bram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, staying on the topic with the hospital, my understanding, and maybe city staff can correct me, is that just like any commercial property, just like any residential property, they're paying for the number of lines that are going in and the usage that they use. So I do respect the residents' comments in regards to the hospital and that others are paying for their usage, but it's my understanding at least that that is not true, that no matter how many water taps they have coming into the facility, they're paying just like anybody else. I hope that's true. I hope I don't get emails about that topic tomorrow morning. In regards to the comments by the resident of the CERC charge and Alderman York's good presentation and the committee's very well-written report, I do agree that that is the point of the CERC charge, to cover all capital, but if you think about it too, I don't know if those dollars would be enough to cover all the capital costs, at least at this point on what we're charging. With that said, it's going to sound like I'm contradicting myself a little bit, but I'm not. I think that the proposal really should be more heavily weighted on the CERC charge increase for the next few years, which I do see it going up in 2020 and past that, but not so in 2019, because I believe that the model should be trying to weight as much as we can the CERC charge versus the usage to cover our capital costs. The usage charge should just be that, and not to try to cover our capital costs as well, if that's possible, and I don't know, and the committee may be able to speak to it. I don't know if that would ever be possible due to the work that we have done and what we need to do. I know we have great discussions at length in the Public Works Committee in regards to what is needed. One of the recent discussions in committee was about the sanitary lining and how we're not seeing the bang for the buck or the return on investment that we thought we would over the past many years. And therefore, we're kind of moving, right now I would say it's split, not down the middle, but split using utilizing sanitary lining and T-lining as well, because that seems to be a better return on investment and where more of the issues are for I&I. Over the years, I've supported and voted against water rate increases. This one's tough for me because I do think this year we're doing a significant increase from 2018 to 2019 from a residential perspective of 8%. And then we're level setting at about 2.8 or so, 2.8 and below essentially for the forecast moving forward, and not raising the surcharge at all to cover some of those capital expenses. With that said, I'm on the fence. I don't know what else to say. I'm concerned in regards to the increase, and if anybody's tapped into the concerns of the residents, the water meters, not that this is a water meter issue, but the water meters and anything to do with water has been a huge concern, I would say, the last 6 months, if not more. I've heard a lot of concerns and/or complaints of the water bills over that time period. Also, I believe that with to do this heavy of an increase up front, with the water meters just being relatively completely installed by close to the end of last year, I'm a little bit hesitant to go to that degree at this point.
Other comments? Alderman Dunn.
I too struggle with the extent of the increase, 5.3% overall. It's a lot, and you look at the projections in the next few years, they're close to that level. 4.6 is the projected for 2020 and 4.8 for 2021. Then it drops off. Really, most of the increase, if not all of it, is driven by the residential component, which is driven by the water main replacements. And as Chairman York mentioned, the committee, the Finance Committee, when I was on it a few years ago, we made a concerted decision to increase the rate at which we were replacing water mains, as was suggested in the consultant study, Baxter and Woodman, because there is benefit in doing that. You have less water main breaks, you have less leakage. Water main breaks are expensive to fix, and they do they cause an inconvenience. But bottom line is, if you have a lot of old water mains, you're at risk for increased costs and increased failures. So it is a tough increase to swallow, but I think it's the right thing. And as far as the CERC goes, we also spoke about that at length, and rolling in water main replacements, which happen every year. We're not going to do those some years, and we're not going to line sanitary pipes some years and then choose not. Those are an ongoing maintenance issue that really need to stay in the operating portion of the budget. The CERC, the capital investment recovery charges for big one-time capital expenses that we have to go out and take loans out on, or get bonds for instance, a $3 million digester. That would certainly be something that would roll into the CERC. Increase to the average home of $241 to $253. That's a lot, but I think it is important that we keep our infrastructure up. So I am in agreement with that.
Any other comments? Alderman Toledo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Alderman York mentioned, I did have some questions on this report, and also, like Alderman Dunn, having served on the Finance Committee, I'm pretty well versed in what the city what decisions we've had to make as a city, and some of the tough financial positions we are in with our water sewer system. But I did have concerns because we have had, I'm sure all of you have had, concerns from residents about their water bills, and we have just changed out the meters, and it would be nice to be able to have a little bit of breathing time to let that all settle down and have, a full annual billing cycle so that we know how that plays out. So I was able to get some additional information to help me feel better that we are not, the amount of water that we're billing for is pretty consistent year over year with the data that we do have from the new meters. And I pressed Alderman York, Chairman York, and Director Trozine hard on whether or not we could smooth out this increase over 2 years, and just to make it a little bit easier for folks to make these payments and to pay for their water. And I became convinced through that pressing that if we did so, it would be at the expense of getting very specific projects done next year that need to be done, and convinced that could be shooting ourselves in the foot and actually making it more expensive to maintain the system, to Alderman Dunn's points about water main breaks and things like that. So after really pushing on the report, I also came to the conclusion, as Alderman Dunn did and as the committee has done, that this is the right decision. It's a tough decision to take, but it's the right decision for the position that we're in with our water system and our sewer system at this point. Thank you.
Any other comments? Alderman Bram.
Just a follow-up, I guess, question, if anybody knows the answer. Alderman Toledo's statements about if we don't increase this amount this year, that we would be jeopardizing not doing some projects, and what seems to be some major projects. I'm not aware of that. I haven't seen that in the report. My understanding is the budget's set for this fiscal year, that all those projects are funded for this fiscal year. So I'm concerned to hear discussing water rates that would not be the case. If anybody could provide some insight on what particular projects might be at jeopardy, that would help me in my assessment.
Alderman York?
I'll take a stab at it. I mean, the budget is what was used as the basis for our considerations, and that's what our rates are based on. So, I don't think there's been any discussion of what would be taken out if we decided not to increase the rates.
Okay, Alderman Toledo.
Thank you. Yeah, there wasn't a specific, water main project on, South Sailor or something like that. It wasn't specific, but there was discussion that the Public Works and the finance team had talked about projects and had already pushed off what they could push off to afford what they could, and then if we didn't get what's proposed in this report, that they might have to make further sacrifices. Nothing specific, so I don't mean to mischaracterize anyone's comments.
Any other comments? Clerk Cyprian?
Enquist?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Mulliner?
Aye.
Brennan?
Aye.
Sabatino?
Aye.
Deuter?
Aye.
Dunn?
Aye.
Leader, absent. Palumski?
Aye.
Graham?
No.
Toledo?
Aye.
York?
Aye.
Levin?
Aye.
Park?
Aye.
12 ayes, 1 nay, 1 absent.
12 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. 17.19 is approved. On to 17.20. This is a report out of finance. I'd ask Clerk Cyprian to read the recommendation.
Given the community's consistent and persistent commitment to sustainability and the use of renewable energy sources, it is therefore the recommendation of the Finance, Council Affairs, and Administrative Services Committee that the City Council direct the city attorney to draft an ordinance authorizing the city to enter into an agreement for electric aggregation with MC Squared for a 2-year term utilizing the total renewable supply option at a cost not to exceed the rate authorized by the state of Illinois for the utility Commonwealth Edison. Because the program offered by MC Squared is considered unique and/or proprietary, the committee also recommends that MC Squared be considered a sole source vendor, and therefore, the city council waive the RFP/bidding process. Signed, Kevin York, Chairman, Mark P. Sabatino, Vice Chairman, Tina Park, and Mike Brennan.
To put this before council, I'll ask for a motion to approve the report and recommendation as read. Motion by Alderman York, second by Alderman Sabatino. Alderman York, another report for you.
Yep. Yes, Your Honor, that's correct. Electric aggregation, as the report says, started in 2012 with the passage of a referendum. We embarked on a couple what I'll call traditional aggregation programs where we went out and beat the utility rate and saved some people some serious money. That all kind of over time went away. In fact, the last aggregation program that we were on, we ended up make a recommendation that residents switch off of the aggregation program because the utility rate, the rate provided by ComEd as a utility, which is all regulated by the state of Illinois, was lower. So back in April, if you'll recall, we did go out and get some indicative bids on a traditional aggregation program, and the results weren't good, ranging from basically a penny over the utility rate, so per kilowatt hour. I'm having some allergy issues here or something. So we did, go to the market for that. We were approached by MC Squared with a option to look at an aggregation program that gave us the opportunity to use renewable energy, primarily in the form of wind energy. And it would be at the same cost as the energy we currently use, but it would be backed up by renewable energy credits. So this isn't an end-all, be-all solution. There's still other things we can do, but the committee came to the conclusion that this is certainly better than nothing. We can't go in and make the regulatory agencies change the energy mix that they do as one community. This gives us the option to get 100% renewable energy into about half the homes in Elmhurst. So no additional cost to the residents who get selected for this, and everybody has the ability to opt out. So kind of a win-win. If people aren't happy with it, they can opt out. I believe we better keep our eyes open and our ears open and look for other options, whether they be solar panels or what have you, but it's really kind of a different scenario than what we're talking about here tonight. So be happy to try and answer any questions. I think the report tried to cover the whole conversation pretty well, but certainly be glad to provide any answers or additional color.
Question or comments? Alderman Deuter.
Thank you, Mayor. The table that's included in the report talks about, it has a column that says additional consideration provided to the city. Can you describe where that comes from, what that means?
Basically what it would be is from MC Squared. If we wanted to go with 50% renewable supply, MC Squared would provide that energy mix to us, but they would also give us $50,000 in cash. And then 0% would be $100,000 in cash. And some communities have used this for their own community-based programs and so on and so forth. But I think the committee felt like that the total renewable supply was the best option because, again, people have the option to opt out. If they didn't like to do it, that's fine. We kind of felt like any of the other alternatives maybe would have the appearance of being a cash grab by the city at the expense of renewable energy and stuff like that. So that's why we kind of made that decision.
Other comments or questions? Alderman Dunn.
The point was made that 50% of the residents would be eligible or could be accommodated by MC squared under this new program. What is the restriction? Why is it 50%? Is it a capacity issue for them to manage that many accounts? Or what exactly is driving that?
I think that what Mr. Hoover, our consultant, mentioned was the fact that there are probably the higher users of electricity would be the ones that would be applicable to this program. So if you had a retiree, maybe one or two people living in a house that didn't use a lot of electricity, it wouldn't make financial sense for them to go out and do the transactions they need to do. So that's why it is. And I think Elmhurst, if I recall from previous aggregation conversations, we use typically a little bit more electricity than other communities our size or whatever, simply because our housing stock is older and so on and so forth. That's probably changed over time as we've seen replacement of the housing stock, but it's basically based on consumption, and I think you need to have a higher consumption of electricity to make the whole thing work from their perspective.
So it is the top half of the energy users in the city that are eligible, which would certainly be more interest to MC squared than the bottom half.
We didn't really get that granular in our discussion, but I would say that you're probably on track there, yes. We didn't get that specific with it.
Any other comments? Clerk Cyprian.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy. Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Mike?
Brennan?
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
No.
Peter, absent. Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Saludo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
12 ayes, 1 nay, 1 absent.
12 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Agenda item agenda item 8.2. Approved. On to reports and recommendations of appointed elected officials. Mayor Morley, that's me. 3 items of report. The city will be hosting on January 26th our electronic recycling event, Saturday the 26th. You can go online on our website, main website, and see it from there. It is at our Public Works facility from 8 until noon. If you go online, you can see a list of stuff that is acceptable to drop off there. Our Youth Commission, Elmhurst Commission on Youth, is presenting Teen Trends and Risky Behaviors. Most folks know that part of our police department, we have SROs. These are school resource officers. They're actually officers that are in the schools every day with our students, and they will be hosting and presenting Teen Trends and Risky Behaviors. That's March 6th at the Elmhurst Public Library from 7 to 8. All are invited, especially parents and students. And then finally, it was my pleasure to deliver the State of the City address, the 8th of this month. I want to thank Rich Reichert, George Hammersmith, and everybody at Elmhurst Community Bank for hosting the event, and also want to thank John Quigley and the Elmhurst Chamber, as it is their event, which is hosted at the bank. And that's it for me. City Manager.
Thank you. Just one item tonight. Last week, the museum opened a new exhibit that is going through March 17th. It's titled Heart's Desire, Reflections on Love and Marriage. Ties into, of course, February and Valentine's Day, so I would encourage everyone to get over to the museum while you can to look at that. Thank you.
Any other reports? Alderman Dunn.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to give a quick update on the Fly Quiet Committee meeting, which occurred earlier today. Not a lot happened at that meeting. Some discussion on the current Fly Quiet that's been around 20 years. Departure vectoring and the compliance with the vectoring that is being suggested by the departures, the takeoffs at night is up over 90%. So that's good moving forward. Should new vectoring be being installed or taken up in future runway plans, which is basically to take off and then turn a certain way to try to go over land that's unoccupied by residential. The other thing I wanted to mention is Alderman Brand did mention the 4 open houses that the FAA is conducting to go over the interim fly quiet runway rotation plan. There is right now, it started on January 14th. There's a 45-day comment period. It ends February 27th. So if anyone has comments on that plan, the deadline's February 27th to get those in. Thanks.
Okay, any other reports? Alderman Braham?
Just one comment on the O'Hare update. I would ask any and all of our representation, Alderman Dunn being our rep, yourself, Mr. Mayor, or anybody who speaks to any powers that be that may have any influence on this decision, to continue to press and ask the question about nighttime curfews or hard caps on flights during the nighttime hours at O'Hare. I know other airports have successfully implemented this. O'Hare used to, I think, unofficially have something years ago as well, but I would just make the public request to continue to ask that question on, and have it answered on why this would not be something that should be of consideration and possibly move forward.
Okay, any other reports? Seeing none, we'll go on to agenda item 10.1. I'd ask Clerk Spencer, Cyprian, to read the ordinance.
An ordinance authorizing the purchase of property located at 671 Swain Avenue, Elmhurst, Illinois.
Before council, asks for a motion to approve the ordinance as read. Motion by Alderman Honquist, second by Alderman Toledo. Discussion. Clerk Cyprian.
Honquist.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader absent. Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Toledo.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. On to agenda item 11.1. This is a resolution. I would ask Clerk Cyprian to read the resolution.
Resolution approving and authorizing the execution of change order number 2 for the Water Reclamation Facility Storage Pad Extension Project. See item 7.7.
Okay. Okay. To put this before council, ask for a motion to approve the resolution as read. Motion by Alderman Kennedy, second by Alderman Deuter. Discussion. Clerk Cyprian.
Conquest.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Mulliner.
Aye.
Brennan.
Aye.
Sabatino.
Aye.
Deuter.
Aye.
Dunn.
Aye.
Leader absent. Palumski.
Aye.
Graham.
Aye.
Pluto.
Aye.
York.
Aye.
Levin.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
13 ayes, 1 absent.
13 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries. On to other business. Any other business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Alderman Braham, second by Alderman Deuter. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.